Welcome back to Orange State on the beat of Syracuse, Z89. Grant Ryan in the studio here with Becca Adelot, as always.
As always, I'm always here.
And we're pleased to welcome our guest for today, Miss Anne-Marie Buerkle, into the studio. Hi, how are you today?
I am great. Thanks for having me.
And it is a pleasure to have you here with us, and we're going to get into the issues in a moment, but we thought we'd just talk with you briefly and let you sort of introduce yourself, give us a little about your background and that sort of stuff before we dive into the issues.
Well, as I was introduced, I'm Anne-Marie Buerkle, and I am the Republican, Conservative, and Independence candidate for New York's 25th Congressional District, which is all of Onondaga County and west towards Rochester.
All right, and how's the campaign been going against the incumbent, Mr. Dan Maffei?
The campaign has been going extremely well. This is a great year to be running. I think we have the wind at our back because we're right on the issues for this country and for this district.
Very cool. And fresh off the debates, which were interesting to watch.
Yeah, definitely one of the more interesting debates that we've had around here for a while. So
was that enjoyable, or does it get stressful? How do the debates work? I'm always interested in that.
I think the debates are a great opportunity for the people who live in the district to view them and to find out how we, how each of us feel about the issues. Unfortunately, Dan has refused to do any more debates, so I think we're done with the debates for this campaign season. But I think that they were a great opportunity. We got our issues out, and the fact of the matter is probably there are no two other candidates who are more different, diametrically opposed.
That is true. You really get a pick of the range in this particular election. Yeah. So that is great, and I think we should go right into our issues for now. And basically, we're going to do something called five topics, 5 seconds each, and it's pretty straightforward like that. There's going to be a little countdown and a timer, and because we want to hear really the meat of your stance on that particular issue, and then we'll go into some sort of follow-up questions after that. Does that sound good?
Very good.
All right, let's go do our first one, which is on energy and the environment, and you can get started right now.
Everyone is concerned about the environment. We should never pass legislation that...
Oh, that's all right. It's first one, go ahead and finish. It's quick, I know. Creeps up on you.
Never should pass legislation that's going to hurt jobs in the economy.
And speaking of that legislation, one of that I know you're very much against is cap and trade legislation. And why is that?
Because cap and trade is going to have a negligible effect on the environment and the issues we're trying to face here. But the most important thing about cap and trade is it's going to cost jobs, and it's going to increase the cost to do business for a small business, and it's going to increase the cost of energy for a family who lives in the district. It's really nothing more than a tax on energy.
And the way cap and trade works, and as I think we should explain that, is that it's essentially a system that well, go ahead and explain it.
Yeah, why don't you explain it?
Well,
you probably know it better than we do.
What we're going to do is we're going to issue carbon emissions and how much each business or each family, what your allotment is. And the problem with it is, and I just met with a small business owner this morning. He said, and I read through the bill. I pointed this out to Dan Maffei, that it even gives carbon coupons to other countries. They're not being regulated for the carbon emissions. We are, so then they bring these coupons and they get involved in our system. The fact of the matter is it's a tax on energy. The fact of the matter is it's going to raise the cost of doing business and hurt small businesses, and we don't need that in upstate New York. We need to be encouraging jobs.
Yeah, and I saw that it's going to affect actual families in the area because the heating bills are going to go up, things like that, all the energy taxes, things like that. And, I don't really think that's a good thing for this district. And I think that's
true. And it's a touchy issue because it is a system that could potentially have a benefit in terms of lowering the emissions of certain companies. But again,
it's like a trade system.
If doing that, it may have negative effects on other things. All right, move on to number 2.
Exactly, okay.
All right, number 2 is on health care. We'd like to hear your stance on health care. Go ahead.
This health care bill is wrong for our country and wrong for this district.
Wow, finish that one.
Didn't even need 5 seconds.
Look at that.
I'm learning.
She's a quick learner. All right, so wrong for the country and wrong for the district.
So what would be a better solution?
Well, everyone agrees that we need health care reform because health care has become too expensive.
Correct.
Absolutely.
That's a given. Everybody can agree on that. The question is, how are we going to reduce the cost of health care while maintaining good access to care and while not affecting the quality of care? So we look at this health care bill, It doesn't talk about tort reform, which will get rid of frivolous lawsuits, which will decrease, we know for certain, decrease the cost of
Yes,
healthcare.
absolutely.
Yeah. We also should make insurance more competitive. The patient should be the consumer. The patient should be able to buy their health insurance plan wherever they want, not just limit it to New York State. That will increase competition. If I can go to Texas or I can go to some other state and buy my insurance there, that's going to make the Central New York insurance companies more competitive, and they're going to reduce their rates. This bill is bad for seniors. It's going to affect the Medicare coverage. That's a bad thing, and it shouldn't happen. The bill creates a bureaucracy. It's going to cost the country $1 trillion over the next 10 years, so it's not reducing costs. It's increasing costs, increasing the bureaucracy, puts the government right in the middle of our healthcare decisions.
And so you're even more, you're in favor of tossing out this completely and starting anew, as opposed to, perhaps, would it almost be easier, because getting things passed through Congress is difficult, and I think we've seen that. I think we've seen that happen recently when we TiVo C-SPAN. But anyway, I was going to say, if you would it almost be easier to perhaps amend the current bill, or is it too far gone? Is that too difficult?
There's not enough in it that's salvageable, and the things that that may be worth salvaging, you put that in a smaller bill. Look, this bill wasn't reasonable. American people should expect really kind of legislating that's reasonable, that makes sense, common sense, small bills, incremental steps to improving healthcare reform. This thing is over 2,000 pages. You know, the famous words of Nancy Pelosi, let's read it and then we'll find out what's in it. Americans should really expect more from their legislators.
So I think that makes sense, is then to do the incremental steps, we can sort of, and then not only that, it's more transparent. We can sort of see the steps as they happen.
Kind of like baby steps, as opposed to just diving in head first, which I think, obviously our government's been pretty big on doing, and maybe that's not the best thing. Maybe we should go, a little bit.
That can be scary, diving in head first.
And I think for any American, it is scary to just have all this information thrown at them all at once. And I mean, if our Congress, if Congress doesn't even know what's in the bill right now,
and
what about
the problem
American
is
public?
that the small businesses, people don't understand how it's going to affect them, because it's the people who wrote the bill don't even know how it's going to affect all of us. And so incremental, responsible, let's do what really needs to be done.
So in terms of those increments, what would be the first increment that we go to? Obviously, if you were going to get rid of this current one, what's the first increment we get out of the way first?
How are we going to keep the costs low in healthcare, or keep them down? Tort reform, frivolous lawsuits, got to handle that. Make insurance competitive, be able to buy it across state lines, make it portable so if you lose your job you can keep your insurance. Encourage the use of health savings accounts. Let people have autonomy, pre-tax dollars, let them keep that money, spend it how they want to, and they have a catastrophic plan at the end if they need it beyond a certain threshold of cost. But the patient is the consumer, not the federal government.
True. And when you say each one of those things, would you put all of those into one bill, or each of those would be their own thing that gets passed?
Well, I think those could all go to keeping the cost of health care down. I think that could be phase one. What are we going to do to decrease this? Maintain the.
Fair. All right. Do you want to do number 3?
Yeah. The third one is going to be the economy and jobs.
Go ahead.
Government cannot create jobs. It is the private sector that we have to encourage.
Right on the buzzer there. That was well done. All right. So now, and again, I understand the part where the private sector is the one that has to be creating jobs. But what would be your response to then President Obama's public works plan that was supposed to then create a lot of jobs in that case? Obviously, you said that the federal government doesn't create the jobs, but do you not see that as something that's actually going to create jobs, or what would be your stance on that part?
Well, let's look at just what just happened, and that is this government put our nation into debt close to $1 trillion. We still have unemployment at 9.6 and underemployment at 17%. It failed. It failed because the government can't create long-term jobs. They can throw money at a problem, but they're not getting into the root of the problem, and the root of the problem is the economy is stagnant. And so we look to see why can't we get the economy moving? And what this administration has done is it's created uncertainty for businesses. We just talked about the health care bill.
Right.
The businesses don't know how this health care bill is going to affect them. We talked about cap and trade. They don't know how cap and trade is going to affect them. They don't know whether or not the tax cuts are going to be extended, whether there's going to be a death tax. So all this uncertainty creates it's as if the businesses just freeze. They don't hire, they don't grow, they don't do anything. They sit on their cash. There's cash out there, but the banks and the businesses are sitting on them because of the uncertainty. We got to extend the tax cuts for all Americans. We've got to repeal the death tax. We've got to reduce or eliminate capital gains. We've got to reduce corporate taxes. We've got to free up some capital so that small businesses, the ones who really, those are the people that invest in jobs. Those are the people that will get the economy going. It's the private sector that we want to encourage, not growth of government.
And so, and you said something interesting there about taxes. In favor of extending the Bush-era tax cuts?
Yes,
sounded?
The 2001-2003 tax cuts should be extended to all Americans. Those high earners, they are the job creators. And this administration and our congressmen have declared a war on prosperity, and that's the wrong way to go for this country. This country is a free enterprise, capitalistic system, and we should be encouraging that, not encouraging the growth of government.
All right, fair enough. I think we
covered that one.
Yeah, we get. I think we need to move on to our next one, which is national security. If you're ready, go ahead.